Greetings! Today is September the 26th of 2018, and I think I'm almost done with my sniffer project. So some of the stuff that I've done in the last few days was I cut down the surgical tubing here that goes from the squeeze bulb into the actual body of the sniffer. I looked at some frames from the movie, specifically a shot when Bill Murray enters Sigourney Weaver's apartment. It's just sort of swinging, and at a point that it kind of swung, a little straighter, I used that, and also a shot from when they were filming the commercial. Of course, in the movie, the commercial just plays on, Sigourney Weaver's apartment television set, but the actual shooting of it has been online for a couple of years, and there was a moment when Dan Aykroyd had the sniffer around his neck, and this was just dangling free. So taking those frames and taking the known quantity of the length of the sniffer bulb, because I've got a real Bacharach sniffer bulb there, I kept cutting and pasting it on the images, and it usually came out to about 3.5 of these bulbs to make the length of the tube. 3.5 of those bulbs came out to just slightly under 12 inches, so I cut it at an even foot. So I've got a 12-inch piece here from what was previously a 3-foot piece. I've got a 1-foot piece now. And then another thing that I did, you may have already noticed, that I finally applied these metal labels that I got from the seller in Mexico. And what I used to affix those was just plain old carpet tape. Now, I had seen carpet tape back in the 80s that was more like a thin layer of plastic with adhesive on both sides. This was more like fabric in there, but it was fairly easy to cut and position these. There's a little bit of a bump to this one, and I'm not sure why, but I can't really seem to get it back off without bending the printed plate, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. Another detail that I did was I finally put the label that Jacob had made in there inside the analog graph, and this was just a fluke. Now, the previous metal slides that I had on my strap are slightly rectangular. The one in the movie is a little more oval in shape. I was out of town, I wasn't looking for anything Ghostbusters, and my eye fell on a loose suitcase strap, and I said, I think that's the right shape, but it was like a dark purpley black, and I thought, well, I'll get this, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Hopefully I can eat the paint off of it. I had this thing soaking for half an hour, submerged in goof off, and nothing happened to it. So I actually had to sand off the paint from that piece of metal. So if anybody else knows what that is and can find me a second one or two identical silver ones that have never been painted, let me know. So that's one thing I haven't done yet, is I have not sewn this piece to itself like it's supposed to be on the actual strap, because if I were to find better slide fasteners, I would use those. I would replace those, and I'd have to cut the strap and everything. So here we go. Strap is more done now. Gauge is more done now. This tube is more done now, and the label's on both sides now. I left the original label on the bottom for a couple of reasons. Number one, this one was perfectly fine, and it looks just like what it ought to look like. It's got a couple of scuffs on it, which I figure the bottom of this thing is going to get scuffed regardless, so might as well have a pre-scuffed one on there rather than scuffing the other one that's new. Plus, there's a tiny, tiny typo on the reproduction, so I'm keeping the one that says charge instead of change. Now then, here's this thing, and I did have some difficulty with it. Get off of there. That's a completely unrelated project. I did have some difficulty with this thing in putting the threads on the brass and getting it to work and everything. It just wasn't going to happen. So that's actually hot glued in place now. But what I have not yet done is to attach this piece to this piece and call this project done. So I think, I really shouldn't do this yet. I'm dressed all wrong. I should have on a movie costume. Wrong movie. Close enough. So, now then, let's take this sniffer body with all of its pieces, and let's take this sniffer probe, and let's hook them together, and I think, aside from a little tiny bit of sewing, that we can call this project done. I know the black cord is probably way too long and it's got those weird kinks in it. Not entirely perfect. Nothing I can do about that right now. So, thank you to, let's see, Patrick for the sniffer body. Thank you to Cam for the 3D printed parts. Thank you to Tyler for the Bacharach sniffer bulb. Thank you to Ryan the Ghostbuster for the 3D files. Thank you to Jacob Bartlett for the printed material that goes inside the analog gauge. And thank all of you out there for watching. I think I can finally call this project done. And our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs. We're ready to believe you.